All right, hi everybody. My name's Aaron Wheeler. You'll remember me from last week's episode of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We talked about hardening, and Luigi's joining me again this week. And we've got somebody new. Victor, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everybody, my name is Victor Martinez. I work with the Special Projects Department, and I'm here just to talk about some safe browser. So we'll talk about it. I'm ready to get into this.
All right, thanks, Victor. Thanks for joining us. And guys, this week we're going to be talking about safe browsing. Luigi, if you want to take us into that, and we'll get into this week.
Thank you, Aaron. Hey, everyone. Good to see you guys again. I'm looking forward to today's discussion about browsing safely through the internet. So, for me, the browser, right? Internet browser, it's like one of the most important tools that we use daily. We use it a lot for interaction, shopping, social media, paying our bills, and all that stuff. But there's always that thing that we need to look into about the browser is that because we use the browser so much, there's a lot of things that we got to take into consideration with the browser because, for example, browser, it's a software. It has its own things, needs to be updated. It's got its own settings. You can fully personalize it to your liking. And, my time working in IT, I always felt like not a lot of people take advantage of that. And I feel like, with today's discussion, it'll be a good opportunity to talk about it a little bit more. So I came up with 5 segments that we're going to cover. And each of these segments, I got pretty creative with it, with the letters, all spell out the word SMART. So first one we're going to talk about is strong browser setup, letter S. Next one will be managing your controls, letter M. And automatically doing a cleanup. I like to call this one like a spring cleaning type of thing, which is really fun. Like that's my favorite one that I can't wait to get into, letter A. And then the last one, not last one, research before you click, letter R. And the last one, which is think before you trust, letter T. So guys, first things first, I'm just curious, what browsers do you guys use?
As far as browsers go, personally, I have things I have to use Edge for, and otherwise, I use Firefox. So
Firefox?
sorry, not Firefox. I use Chrome. I used to use Firefox. My bad. How about you,
What about
Victor?
Okay, for me, honestly, I use Chrome too because personally it's the most accessible with most of the websites and stuff that I need to go over. So Chrome is the one for me, honestly.
For me, I like to use Chrome a lot. I mean, I've been using Chrome ever since I started college. Honestly, whenever I go to talk to my classmates or go to the IT department, they always tell me use Chrome. Chrome is a little bit better. It's very compatible. It just offers a little bit more, better performance, and honestly, and plus, like I feel like for some reason with Google Chrome, it's like integrated with. It works well because I use Google a lot, so the integration is great.
Now, as far as keeping the browser, keeping it secure, what's one of the ways that that students can do that?
I think more important when before we go into the settings part, maybe we start with the first segment. When you're doing the first thing you look at is that like the question is when you guys go on the browser, right? You type in a website. What's the first thing you look at, before moving forward?
The page design. If it's if it's a poorly designed page, then I'm just if there's no
That's
aesthetic, I
automatically
leave.
red flag.
Yeah, that's
Right.
that's a red flag right there. A total red flag for me. So I have to leave the poorly designed page. No, honestly, the first thing I look is that whether or not it actually resolves itself, meaning you didn't get the little pop up that says this page is insecure. Because
Right.
personally, I have my browsers all set to HTTPS only, which means that if it's a non-secure site, it won't go there.
See, I was researching about that page that pops up when it says this is not a trusted site. Yeah, it's a very helpful feature. I mean, that's basically the browser. Oh, basically, like browser stating that they did their research, and all the time, like they have this integrated security list that it's constantly being updated, and it checks like almost every website if it's malicious or not. But the thing is that, that's another thing we're going to discuss further down the road when it comes to updating your browser. But yeah, that works too. But sometimes, like, what I do first? Because I like to type really quick, sometimes a little too fast, I always check the URL. Like, come on, guys. Like, how many times when we type in the URL, we're always making a little spelling error, right?
I will tell you, actually, my personal trick on that is I type the website that I'm looking for into Google first. And what that does is Google then checks it to see, and it'll come up as a search result, and then you can go through that as a path to get to the site you're looking for.
So you're saying it's a good idea maybe to make that as a default page, right?
Yeah, I have Google that comes up as my default page, and then if I'm looking to go to a site, I type it into the Google search, and then if it's a legitimate site, it'll come up as, usually the top search, or top
Right.
item, and you can click on it, and then that takes you through. And that does things like you said, it keeps you from mistyping it in, because if you're typing in the URL into the address bar, if you misspell and hit enter, I mean, there's no telling where in the bowels of the internet you're going to end up. Hopefully they've gone in and they have spelling variations parked so that and that way when you type it in wrong, it still is going to take you where you want it to go.
Oh, I got a funny story that I got to bring up before I forget. So I learned about this a while ago. Google, right? A lot of times with people typing in Google, they put too many O's in. Because it was happening so often, you know what Google did? They registered like
Registered it, yep.
the name.
So it forwards you to the regular
It forwards it. And it makes sense because, like Google's a very popular website. And of course, malicious actors are going to take advantage, be like, oh, people are commonly, they're always putting in that extra O. So, they'll take advantage of that. But Google went ahead and just like, you know what, let's just register the name. And shoot, if they keep adding O's, then we'll keep registering more names.
Yeah. Well, one of the other things, and you'll see, and this is kind of along the same vein. I think we talked in last week's discussion on hardening, making sure for Wi-Fi, making sure you're getting on the right Wi-Fi. Because there is a thing called rogue access points, where third party or malicious actors, they'll go in and instead of it saying QC Wi-Fi guest, it says QC W1FI guest. That's a malicious access. It's a rogue access point, and they'll do the same thing with websites. So you might have Google. It looks like Google, GOO, but it's really G00. And I believe Google's gone in and taken that one. There's a couple of most of your big websites, especially things that are pretty heavily web-based only. They do that. They make sure that they've got the variations, and I having one of those moments where the gray is taking over my brain and forgetting the word I'm looking for on what that's called, but it actually has a name.
I'm on my way there, by the way.
To Google or to wherever that thought went. Oh, the gray? Yeah, you're not even
grays.
close. And of course, whenever Victor becomes an adult, we'll actually teach him to shave. Yeah,
One day.
Funny.
Actually, Aaron, I want to talk to about something that you just mentioned about the HTTPS.
Yeah.
So, like, not a lot of people know this, but the big browsers, like we're talking about, like Edge, Firefox, Chrome, they do have this option called HTTPS only. mode. So if you, not a lot of people have that activated, but just to double check, they can activate that so they can go to secure and encrypted websites so their information doesn't leak or ends somewhere else.
I like what Victor was saying. Browsers now, they have the ability to set up a HTTPS, which is great. It will automatically just constantly ensure that whenever you're going into a website, you're always going onto a website that's secure. And remember, there's always that, you see it at the end, sometimes you don't. It's that little S right next to the P, which stands for secure.
There's
Well, let
also
me
another
actually-
way,
Which is
the little lock.
the padlock. The padlock.
The padlock.
Padlock.
Look
can
look
too.
for the
Yeah.
padlock. That's the quick and easy way if you're not wanting to, you're not reading the URL. If that padlock's locked, you're good.
But when it says S, people think, well, it means secure. Well, secure, in case no one doesn't know, like whenever you're going on a website, especially like websites like shopping, banking information, it has to have that S because S is needed when you're putting in personal information. So it's always important to, when you're going to those websites, make sure it has that little S to it.
But let's talk about the next piece you mentioned, the M, as far as
managing your
manage.
controls.
Yeah, and because as soon as we started talking about the idea of security on the browser and making sure the padlock's locked, but talking about third parties, because guys, I have to tell you that it's becoming so rampant that I say rampant. That's not even really the word I think I want to use.
Say something about,
But third-party cookies or tracking cookies. How many websites? And it's gotten to the point where I've gone to websites not realizing they've got the little pop-up at the bottom that says, agree to our stuff or you can't use it, and nothing else happens until you click on that.
Yeah.
And using HTTPS does not block those third-party cookies or any of the tracking cookies. And I think it's important to mention that.
every website where it's asking for login credentials or when you're creating an account, you always get that little window that pops up in the bottom right corner saying, hey, do you want to save your information so, you don't have to like type it in. And, people, they're going to end up clicking yes, and that's the thing though. They may not realize it, but if you're constantly clicking yes and every time you're logging in or creating a new account on a website, you're building a whole slew of a list of passwords that you're being saved on the Chrome. Now, the thing is that with these browsers, right, profiles, you could create a profile and each profile, it has its own personalization, list of passwords and all that. Now, think about it like this, you go in public and you go in public, use one of the public machines, shared machines, anything like that, and you sign into your profile, you're basically synchronizing all the data that you saved on your personal machine, and then you're putting it on the public machine, and that's just
That it's on your browser.
yeah.
Make sure we make a point there.
On your
So,
browser.
for example, if I'm using Google and I'm on my personal computer and I log into Google on a public computer or work
Yeah.
computer or a friend's computer, it's going to take all of your browser information and then sync it to there.
Everything.
And
History,
the
cookies,
problem
all
with that is then your computer, your hard drive doesn't have to get, tagged, doesn't have to get hacked. They just have to get into your browser.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Don't use the browsers, and this is my opinion. And you guys can disagree with me if you're not. Don't use the browser's password manager. Use the third party one.
Yep.
Like Aaron, what do you use? LastPass.
I use
right?
LastPass.
LastPass.
I know there's a number of other password.
Well, I like to use Norton's password
Okay.
manager. Victor, what do you use?
I use NordPass.
You use the same one.
Do you? Okay.
Or-
Now let's talk about incognito mode and what that means, because I will tell you, not personally, but I know a lot of people that think, oh, if I turn on incognito or private browsing, you can't see what I do. No, and that is
Not true.
about as far from true as you're gonna probably get. So, Victor, why don't you enlighten us on what that means?
So basically, incognito mode, you still gonna you get some kind of privacy, but like not really at all, because what you're just getting is like they're just not basically saving your search history. That's basically all. Everything else gets saved. The like whatever internet that you're connected to, they're gonna be able to see your traffic. So it's not really private at all.
Yeah, I actually, I mean, do you want to add to that, Luigi?
So basically, Victor, it's like not leaving any cookie crumbs behind when you're in incognito mode.
So I actually pulled up a window here for incognito mode in Chrome. Chrome won't save browsing history locally, cookies and site data, and information entered into forms. But it still keeps a track. So here's the two-edged sword of incognito mode. It says it won't show up in your browsing history, but they're still tracking websites that you visit. And if it's a school computer or a work computer, you'll still they'll still be able to know where you've been. And your your ISP, internet service provider, is going to know where you've been. So it's not as if you're not leaving fingerprints and footprints, on the internet from that standpoint. So, but all right, how about clearing cookies and your cache, or catchy? I wanted to pronounce it wrong and I didn't right up front, but let's talk about that and the A for smart, which is automatic cleanup, as you mentioned.
Yeah, like this one I like to, for me, this is something I do personally. Like I like to do this like kind of like a spring cleaning kind of way, I usually do like maybe every 2-3 weeks, check my browser, make sure everything is supposed to be, check my settings, clear my cookies and cache, make sure that I have no password saved on it. And now this is something that very important. I feel like not a lot of people know, or this is overlooked. Extensions. Do you guys use extensions?
Yeah. I feel like that could probably be a whole week's conversation as far as, disabling anything that's unnecessary browser extensions.
A lot of people forget to disable them whenever they don't need it anymore, or they get it, or they just get it and they don't even need it. So that's just an opening like a door for people, so they might, they get them on risk.
Of course. No, I mean that's the issue. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Well, no, I was going to bring something up as far as that, and then talking about cookies and history. Do either of you, and I know I do because all of my browsers are set up this way, but have it to dump everything upon closing?
No.
When you exit out of your browser, it deletes. So.
No, that I don't use. I just manually.
I would recommend that if you're that's probably now. What it means is anything that you've got in it, it's going to get rid of when you close the window out. But that keeps you from we think about it. Go in, clear cache. Go in, clear cookies. Do all of these things. Clear up temporary files, all that kind of stuff. But if you tell the browser to do that for you, it'll clear your cookies and your history and your temporary files every time you close out. And for those people who don't think about it, who are, they're not power users, but they use it. They use their computers, but it's not a life, daily function. I would recommend doing that as well. So,
but going back to extensions, like when you're downloading them on the store, Google Chrome store. There's like so many of them. Do you know which one, how can you tell which is good? Which is legit or which is not legit?
Make sure they come from a decent source. So, if it's on if you go through Google through their and for them you can actually manage extensions, and they have a Chrome web store where you can get
Right.
extensions from. And I would say that if they're in there, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be fairly reputable. Don't download them from random websites.
No,
Don't
absolutely
download
not.
them off of random thumb drives that people hand you. I'm not saying that I would do that, but if you see me on campus and I hand you a thumb drive, maybe you shouldn't download it.
Mhm. Yeah, because if you go on, like for example, like Adobe, right? Like Adobe's got an extension, Adobe Reader for Google Chrome. But then when you look it up, like for example, if I just look up PDF, you see Adobe, and then you see hundreds of other readers, and then I'm like, what's the difference? And then I'm like, well, I'm gonna go with Adobe, but I picked Adobe because it's familiar for me, and I go based on what I know, and obviously do a little research on it. But yeah, like there's a source extensions. Are you guys comfortable with that, or is that something you
I'd have to do my research, honestly.
research?
But that's coming from someone that used Firefox for quite a while, which is open source. But on the flip side, I've seen open source cause a problem. It's an easy way for developers to sneak things in, sneak in little bits of code here and there. Sneak in backdoors.
Yeah, because open source, it's shared.
It
It's a shared
basically
every-
anybody can add to the code and work with it. So but that leads you to the next
Yeah.
point, the R, which is research.
Of course.
One of the things in fact, we actually already touched on this talking about browsers back the beginning of this discussion, which was for me, typing it in, type it into the search bar. You don't just type it into the URL. Again, you might make a spelling mistake. You might think it's .com and it's really .gov or .edu or .something. And you completely you'll end up in the dark bowels of the internet on a site that you didn't really mean to stay on, and don't know how you've been on it for the last hour looking at things you probably shouldn't. Or buying things you don't need. That's not the voice of experience talking.
I
But-
mean, there's got to be like plenty of tools out there, right?
Well, again, type
Maybe
it
that
in.
little assist-
Type it into the search bar for Google or Bing or whoever your favorite search site is.
But don't forget, like every day there's always a new malicious website that's being made.
Every day.
Every hour?
Every hour,
Every
every
10
10
minutes?
minutes.
Yeah.
And
frequently.
guys, AI, Gen AI has made this it's made the internet such a minefield to me these days. There are plenty of areas that are okay, and as long as you know where you're going, and this is research before you click.
Also, going back on the research before you look it up. I also use websites like Reddit. Like sometimes other people know. I mean, that's what I use personally. Sometimes other people know before you, so just look it up, see what other people is saying about this, and it's another way to get some more information about.
I'm not gonna lie, I do that for retailers. We've all been on Facebook. Facebook. I remember when it didn't have ads, but now that it has ads, you scroll through and you see something and you're like, I wonder if that's real. Because
Yeah,
it
it's
looks,
true.
what do they say? If it looks too good to be true, it's probably too good to be
Right.
true.
So I'm tempted to click on it.
Oh gosh,
that's
don't
too bad.
don't click on it.
Don't even hover over it.
That a lot of times that doesn't even work. It is still a good best practice. Hover over it and see where it takes you, but know what you're looking at, because a lot of times now you'll hover over and it's just nothing but what looks like gibberish. Make sure you look what's right next to the to those forward slashes to see where where you're going. If it's safe search, gosh, if I hadn't started to try to mention them, I would have remembered some of the others, but look at what you're doing. But safe browsing, Google Safe Browsing.
What about Virus Total?
Oh yeah, Virus Total is a good one too. So
I use it a lot. It's pretty accurate.
Is it?
If I'm,
have you had it return you any false positives? Meaning it's or I guess in that case it'd be a false negative that tells you it's safe and it's really not.
Right.
You click on it and you're like, yeah, let me get off of here quick, fast, and in a hurry.
yeah, but no, like I do. I don't just I run it through Virus Total, see what it gives me, and then I use the other one, which I think Google has their own tool, Transparency website, that you can also check. If you want to do I think that was the one you were talking about. You want to do a little cross reference there, but Victor's what he brought up, using message boards and things like Reddit. It's another good thing to do a little bit of research on, figure out what people have experienced and what they know about it. I mean, shoot, it's a little tedious, but it's always good to have that extra step. And honestly, better safe than sorry, no?
Gosh, man, on the internet, it's always
100%.
better safe than sorry.
Oh yeah. But going into the topic a little bit more, the last one segment with the letter T, think before you trust. So let's talk about that a little bit more, especially like in we could more on the college environment with students. How often do you think students are constantly being targeted for malicious?
Is there a number bigger than 100% of the time?
All the time,
1000%.
of course.
But is there a term for more time than all of the time?
No.
And
Is there?
why?
I don't know.
Because, and I say this for students, that they not all of them have the life experience to look at something and be able to have your first response go, that looks too good to be true. And a lot of that in some ways is they're hungry, and I don't mean physically hungry for food. They're looking for they're getting ready to graduate. They're looking for a potential internship. They're getting ready to graduate, looking for a full-time job. They're starting school and looking for funding sources. And the biggest things that I see coming through are fake internships, fake job postings. In fact, they talked about that with LinkedIn. I remember at one time that a lot of the job postings on LinkedIn actually weren't for jobs. They're for the hiring managers to fill the coffers with potential candidates.
Victor, question for you, for the students. What do you think attackers? What's their best? What methods do they use to try to?
In my opinion, attackers are always looking for like these two first of all, they create like a need or like an urgency, you gotta act before this, your account is gonna be locked out or something like that. So they send you like a link, act now before you lose access to your account. And that's how most of the people, fall for it, or I need to, gain access back to my account, or I need to take this scholarship before somebody else takes it, and boom, they get all of their information.
You think mostly emails they use? They don't.
I would say most of the times it's emails, but sometimes, emails, text messages, all of that stuff.
One of the things, and I'll throw this out here, especially on campus, if you've gotten something or you've received something and it's gotten through one of our scrubbers, first off, it means it's good. Not good meaning legitimate. Good meaning that it was able to make it through the various filters that we utilize.
Yep.
But reach out to us. Send myself an email. Send Luigi an email. Put it in as a ticket in the ticketing system with Fresh Service and say, hey guys, got this. Does it look legit? Let us reach out to you, because you'll probably hear from one of us that says either yes or no. 99.99956% of the time it's no, it's not legitimate. All right, guys, it's been a really good discussion today. Let's recap for those watching, for the students. what it is that we've gone over today.
Well, talked about browsing setup. Make sure you look at the URL. See if there's an S there, especially when you're putting in personal information, such as your credit card information, banking info, things like that. Then we covered a little bit on the managing your controls, how to like disable third-party cookies, turn off the auto. We covered about making sure that you don't save your passwords or your credit card information on the browser. Then we talked about cleanups for your browser. Make sure that you go every once in a while. Personally for me, I used to prefer 2 to 3 weeks. Check your settings. Check if there's any passwords that were saved. Remove it. Go through your extensions. Take out which ones you're not using or update them. Update your browser as well. That's another important thing to
turn off autofill. I don't know if we went over that or not, but absolutely turn off autofill.
Yes, autofill.
So
Big,
autofill, and what's the
important.
new one? Used to now it's the one up top where it's allow this site to send you things. I know we're wrapping, but I actually thought about it earlier and it
Like notifications.
yeah, allow this site to send you notifications,
No,
or allow this
disable
site
it.
to track what you're
All
to
the
help you.
application and
Oh
stuff.
Yeah.
gosh, say no,
Yeah.
say no
Say
a
no to
thousand
that.
times.
We also covered, before you click, do a little bit of research. Guys, there's tons of resources out there. You make sure that, if you're unsure about the website, figure out from other people's experience. There's plenty of tools. Aaron mentioned a tool from Google. I mentioned VirusTotal. And Victor brought up a good discussion using Reddit and message boards as well. And
Type it into the search bar. Don't type it directly in the URL.
exactly. And we talked about malicious methods that for students, especially in a school environment, such as emails. Be wary of how the message looks. Check for spellings, things like that. Verify the sender. Always if you have any questions, always contact your help desk department. We'll take a look at it. Give us an email, and you guys follow all these steps, and you basically are making yourself a little bit more secure when you're browsing the website and across the whole internet.
Absolutely. All right, guys, if you've enjoyed today's episode, since this is going out on YouTube, do us a favor, comment. Let us know if there's, something that we brought up. Let us know if something maybe we didn't. Tell us a story, put a comment in, like it, subscribe to the QC, the YouTube channel, if you haven't already. And we'll see you next week with the next installment of Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Have a good week.